Hey, Govcon Giants family, it's your host, Eric Coffie of the Govcon Giants podcast, YouTuber, and now Miami NFT Week Crypto Web3 Blockchainer, maybe. Yes, you've probably seen some of the headlines, some of my posts on social media that we did get a chance to spend some time down at Miami Tech Week over at the Miami NFT conference. And then I jumped over to Solana, passed by Bitcoin Miami, and we were able to also attend NFT Con in the metaverse. So we are looking and expressing some interest in those spaces because we do believe the government will be able to utilize some of these technologies in the future, and we want to get ahead of the curve. We don't want to wait until the technology is here to learn about it. So we're deciding to jump out there. So if you want to learn more of that, stay tuned, stick with us. Also, we have our new initiative, 500 to 5 million. Previously, it was 200 companies to get to 5 million in revenue. We're now pushing that number up to 500 to 5 million. So if you want to be a part of our 500 to 5 million initiative, helping 500 companies achieve $5 million in revenues, visit govconeric.com/join to participate. We are a growing organization of small business contractors. We're the largest organization that supports small businesses that is not currently funded by any of the government agencies. So we are completely self-funded. Our group, our team, based on all the things that we're doing to support the industry, we are looking at having our own events in the future. And so if you want to be a part of that, visit govconeric.com/join to find out more information. Today's guest, Likia Hawkins, President and CEO of Still Point Solutions, is a disruptor in the marketplace. Besides all the accolades next to her name, the ISO certifications, all the Alphabet Soup Hub Zone 8A, etc., she is working with large organizations and agencies to solve complex technologies. And so the reason why I want everyone to listen to it, even though you may not be in the IT space, is you have to listen to how she speaks, how she articulates, how she discusses her company, her team members. No business development person needed for this one. She is her own BD person in a bottle. So I want all of you out there who are interested in becoming growing small business contractors, supporting the government, I want you to listen to this episode and pay close attention to how she describes her team members, how she describes her company, the words she uses. This is the language that you want to use when you're trying to articulate your value proposition to someone in the government space. So stay tuned for that and welcome our next giant, Miss Likia Hawkins.
Sure, thank you. I'm Likia Hawkins, President and CEO of Still Point Solutions. We've been in business since 2013, growing our business, primarily providing support to the intelligence community. And more recently, we branched out to support the Department of Defense as well as the FedCiv sector. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I know I kind of got you warmed up before we came on, right? And saying the challenges of running a business and it's really, from what my friend said was running a business is easy, but the employees, right? Managing people is the hard part.
Yeah, it's definitely part art, part science for sure.
Right. Right. No. And again, I see, we could talk a little about your background story here. And because what I've found in my experience, and I've done this for a little bit of time, a lot of the folks that are in, the intelligence community or support the intelligence community typically have that type of background, right? They're IT people, they're computer science persons, things like that. And I would suspect, right, that you are as well.
I am. So I received my undergraduate degree from Morgan State University, HBCU, in computer information systems and sciences.
Right.
I have an MBA with a specialization in technology management from the University of Phoenix. And I have several industry certifications. So certified CISSP, PMP. And by the way, I've been in business now going on 8 years. I still keep up with my CPUs and PDUs.
I was going to ask you that. Because someone recently asked me that question, a young lady that she's considering starting her own business in this space. How important are those certifications to keep up with?
I think initially when you first start out, they're very important because it adds to your narrative, your story. And for those who don't know you, it adds a sense of credibility.
Okay.
And so I think in the beginning it's very important, but as you grow and begin to expand your business, I don't think it plays as much a part as it would in the beginning.
Were you billable in the beginning?
Oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we started in 2013. We received our first contract January 27th of 2014.
Okay.
And I was able to secure that contract. There's a long story with that, or I'll say that for another day.
Okay.
But in essence, I was employee number one of Steel Point, and I supported that contract for 3 years
Mm.
before I made the transition to full-time, running the business all in Steel Point.
Okay. So you went all the way to 2017.
2020, no, it was 2020,
Wait.
2016. So
Sorry.
2016, I'm sorry, it was
Okay,
2
that's all
years.
right. All
2
right,
years.
2016. All right,
Mhm.
2016. And during that time, like you said, you were billable. How was it juggling, right? Being billable and then, because again, I find that to be a difficult transition for some people, right? To go from being billable to actually running the business and hiring managers and things like that.
It wasn't as difficult a transition for me because I'm a planner and we had a solid plan in place. The reason why I needed to transition was really to begin to grow the business for reasons. And so we had a great plan in place. And, I am more of a COO, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I had to learn how to become a president and a CEO. So for me, the transition was pretty easy because of my background. But I could easily see how for others it may present some challenges.
Now, I don't know if it was your internet went out a little bit. You said you transitioned because of, was it personal reasons or health reasons? I missed that part.
No, I'm sorry. I transitioned because we needed to increase our brand awareness, and it was
Okay.
really challenging to grow your business in the IC community. It still
Okay.
presents some challenges.
Okay, gotcha. And for those people, because I have learned this, that you and I, being in the government space, we talk acronyms. So you have to tell people what the IC community is.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean, we get in for someone that's new to the show. We
Mhm.
throw around a bunch of acronyms. So let people know
Sure,
what the IC community is and the IT.
sure. So the IC community is the intelligence community. So you think about your top 13 agencies. For us, NSA would be one, DIA. So those agencies, those ones that have, national security, they protect us, protect our borders. Those are the agencies that we primarily support, and we still do to this day.
And were you, before starting your own organization, were you working for a defense contractor, or are you working in this space?
Oh yeah, I've been in the public sector dating back all the way to college and even before then.
Wow.
Um, I was an employee working for the Air Force. I actually worked at the Pentagon for 3 years.
Okay.
And then when I left the Pentagon, I entered the contracting arena, and that was in 1999. And I was a contractor providing support to several organizations, both large and small, from 1999 until 2013, which again is when I transitioned to becoming an entrepreneur. And during that time, I was very, very intentional in terms of the assignments and the job opportunities that I selected, because I knew eventually one day I wanted to have my own business. And so there were some skill sets and experiences that I wanted to gain before making that ultimate transition into entrepreneurship.
Wow. Okay. You are a planner. All right.
I have three mantras, and it's been with me, is education, certification that I have is always backed by experience. So if I went, actually received my CCNA, so that's the Cisco Certified Cisco Network Associate certification.
Right.
That was so way back then. But I wanted to understand more about routing and switching, put my hands actually on the equipment, be able to understand, what they did, how to configure it. And so once I received the certification, I actually went and looked for a job and got a job as a network engineer. So that's kind of been my story and how I charted my path.
So you said education, certification,
and experience.
All right.
And then relationship is intertwined in all of that.
All right. I like it. I like it. I like it. And when you said you want to put your hands on the actual equipment, that before I take it, you were sitting behind a computer desk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you said, okay, I want to actually go out there and physically do the equipment. Would that be, is that considered like a trade to actually do the people that actually touch the equipment? Is that more of a trade?
It can be. So you have to be intentional. So for example, people who are on, and really we don't really think about the server side, but in the cloud now, or if you're doing something telephony, if you're doing something with mobile, I don't even know if they use telephony as an acronym or wording anymore. You talk about mobile management. If you want to be recognized as a technical practitioner, I don't know how you can do that without having actually configured it, broke it, fixed it, and troubleshooted it. So,
Right.
it's easy for me to conduct interviews because, I'm just technical enough to be able to ask the right questions in terms of, what the actual job would require. And I think that is a little bit of an outlier for me as an owner, because I do have enough technical expertise as well as management expertise to be able to go in and really understand the customer's requirements, what their needs are, and how our solutions and services can in fact help them address their needs.
That actually is a really good point, because I've heard from people, and it's mostly from people on the outside, that IT is really competitive. And what would you say to that?
Oh, definitely. There's nothing new under the sun, if you will. I think it's just a matter of, what do you have or what have you done from a business perspective to differentiate yourself from, that's critical in the area of information technology. And one would argue with any area of business that you choose to go into, you really have to figure out how can you differentiate yourself from your competitor. And in order to do that, you need to understand who your competitor is, what they do, and what makes them so special.
Who your competitor is, what they do, and what makes them special.
That's
I like
right.
that. No, I like that. I like that. Now, can you tell us where, again, we understand you're in a space. I see you said cybersecurity, professional services, digital transformation. Can you put some of that in layman's terms?
Sure. So it's, in essence, digital transformation. What we are focusing on is we're really focusing on business processes. And so there's some areas that you do, I do, anyone in the workforce may do, from a finance, contracts, acquisitions, security, logistics. Every single organization, whether it's in the commercial space or it's in the government space, they have enabling support services that are performed by people using systems. And so what we do is we work with the functional process owners to really understand what are processes that are candidates for automation, develop an implementation roadmap, and then work with the customer to actually demonstrate, this is how you can move forward in your automation journey. From a cybersecurity perspective, what we're doing is really looking at your cybersecurity posture as it relates to certain regulatory requirements that have now been levied on businesses of all sizes who support the Department of Defense. But now we see those requirements actually becoming much broader and really applying to the entire federal civilian sector. So, how can we help the government ensure that the industrial base, that they've thought about security, their security posture, and they put in processes and security controls in order to really protect their data and protect their clients' data. And then professional services is really tying all that together and threading that needle where we have subject matter experts who have a breadth and depth of experience who can come in and help augment our customers and help them in terms of the work that they need to be done, have done.
Wow. No, given what's happening now and with Russia and Ukraine and the threat of cyber warfare, I would imagine that they're probably advancing a lot of the things that they've been discussing for many, many years now, right? It's probably being made a priority. Would you say that?
Certainly. And I would think, as a business owner, especially a small business owner, we always have to balance what we need to do to ensure regulatory compliance.
Okay.
But also not do it in a way that is going to impact our ability to grow our business. And so those are the challenges. And so how do you do that? And so hopefully a lot of small businesses, regardless of their size, they begin to think of those things now so that when you have these types of situations where you have threat actors that could potentially want to have access to your environment, to the best of your ability, you've identified the policy that is required based on your organization and what your cybersecurity posture should look like. And that's a delicate balance, and it's oftentimes hard to do as a small business owner because you're not working with, infinite resources. So you really have to figure out, how do I, balance that and still meet, while we're in business? And that's really to help our clients and grow our base.
Well, we've had several people on that discuss NIST, discuss CMMC, and right, everyone has solutions and right, they have products and they have service things that they want to sell you. But like you said, it's a delicate balance. And how do you do that and at the same time grow your business? Do you have any thoughts, ideas that you could share with people listening?
I do. As a business owner, I'm confronted with those same situations. I myself have to figure out, how do I comply with this? How do I comply with CMMC? Now I benefit because my background before I got into program management and ultimately entrepreneurship, I was a cybersecurity person. So you can tell by my credentials. So I knew the importance of really sitting down and understanding what the policy was for myself, understanding what was considered data that and what kind of data was resident in the systems that we were using, educating myself, performing a risk assessment to understand, what exactly minimally do I need to do so that when I go out and I talk to these vendors or they come and they ask me to pitch their services, at least I understand at a high level what my requirements are, what my risks are, and what I'm willing to tolerate. And that should serve as the foundation and the basis by which you begin to negotiate the services from these various providers. Not all of them are created equally. Some of them will help get you started. Some of them will take you all the way along your journey, but you won't know that until you take the time to educate yourself. And that is something that I do as an entrepreneur, whether it has to do with cybersecurity or understanding what's in the latest NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, or what's coming down through, the policies that Congress is now, the budget. So these are things that as entrepreneurs and CEOs that you have to dedicate time to invest in researching so that when you do have to make these business decisions, you're making the best business decision that's actually going to add some value. The worst thing you can do as a business owner is spend money on something that didn't add value and then you have to go back and pay for it again.
No, it's very well said. I appreciate that. And I tell you, you know, obviously, your stuff.
I told you I'm a planner. It's too much. I'm in the weeds.
No. You know your stuff. I'm telling you, I'm very impressed. There's there's a lot of, and I would imagine, right, with you. In fact, I saw you on Karen Hunter's show.
Yeah.
How did you get on Karen Hunter?
You know what? Relationships.
Okay.
Morgan alumni, I was talking to Mr. Omar Muhammad from
Uh-huh.
the Economic Development Center up at Morgan. He said, Lakia, I know someone who knows Karen Hunter, and I think, we should have you on to talk about cybersecurity. And so,
Okay.
that was my opportunity, my first opportunity to actually, have an audience to tell them, some of the things that they can do from an entry level perspective in terms of maintaining their cybersecurity posture.
Yeah. You want to share some of that? I mean, it was like what people can do, just because again, if people don't know you, and we have a diverse group of people, folks that listen to our stuff, but a lot of small businesses. So if you want to tell them from an entry level perspective, some things they could do.
Sure. The first thing you have to do is you really have to understand, what are the policies and what are the regulatory requirements. And if you don't know it, then you have to figure out a way to hire a consultant or another business who understands those requirements. And then they need to understand your business. What do you do? What is the type of data that you have access to? Who are your suppliers? Who are your subcontractors? And then they have to begin to pull together a plan and really perform a risk assessment on your business so that you can understand, where your gaps lie. And once you understand where your gaps lie, then you could begin to talk about, okay, here's some of the things that we need to think about at a high level from a capabilities perspective. What are some of the things that we need to begin to put in place that will serve as the framework for our cybersecurity architecture. And then when you have that, you can begin to pull together a plan or roadmap that you then can provide to the vendor, and the vendor can give you a quote on your requirements as opposed to them coming in and just telling you blanketly, here's what you need, without really not even knowing what your posture is and what are the requirements that you either do, don't, or you somewhat partially address. And so that would be my recommendation to any small business who really is grappling with whether or not, they should try to do this internally or outsource it.
When we're trying to choose a managed service provider, are there things that we should look for?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Number one, you always want to, when you're having a conversation with a managed service provider, my experience has been, for the most part, a lot of them focus on IT. They come in first with, here are the IT requirements, the capabilities that you need, or the technology that we use for you and a number of other clients that
Right.
can address your requirements. And to me, I think that that's the wrong approach. That's like me going into a customer and saying, here are the capabilities without understanding or having any insight into your requirements.
Mm.
When they get your quote, they're going to say, you really don't understand our business. And I think, if you have a managed IT provider who is saying that they can do IT and security, the first thing that I would want to do is see, whether or not they're willing to provide some type of gap assessment or risk assessment that will help them, some kind of survey, help them actually pull together a reasonable quote. And that's not even having talked to any type of referrals. If they don't do that, then I would not move forward with having any further conversations with that particular company, because they're going to just try to upsell you and give you something that they've sold several other clients.
So when we ask them if they can do a gap assessment, what does that look like?
Oh, that's easy. You actually can do it yourself. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing it themselves, but people are actually, having people pay them to do it for them. And so a gap assessment is nothing more than, a survey. I think it's about 80 or so questions. You answer those questions and it'll spit out a numerical score and tell you, what areas you comply with and what areas you don't. So that'll give you a preliminary assessment at a high level. How do you score against CMMC? And so that can, provide at least a basis by which you can begin to build and really try to understand, what other things do I need to do from a cybersecurity perspective or need to be concerned about.
I'm taking notes. Is there some place where I can get that gap assessment?
I'm more than happy to provide that link to you after this
Okay.
call.
Okay.
There definitely is a link. CMMC has a portal where everyone can go up there and take that assessment, and I believe it is still free.
Okay. No, that's great. That's helpful. I think again, because I want to give information to people that they can do. I Look, I'm a DIY person. Until it's necessary, then I want to do all the things I can. So again, at least it makes me a better customer, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
if I do my own assessment and then someone tries to sell me a product and I have my assessment here, then I can like really look at what they're trying to sell me and say, oh no, that doesn't even, you're like you said, you're selling me something that you've already sold to a bunch of other people.
And that's so critical. I'm telling you, Steel Point, we are ISO 9000, 20,000, 27,000, as well as CMMI level 3 services and development certified. And we have developed all of our own documentation. We've had some support in terms of, looking at our documents, looking at our processes, looking at our evidentiary documentation to say, okay, yes, you guys are ready, or here's some things that you need to probably focus on in preparation for the audit. But we've done all those things internally. Now, can you imagine how much it would have cost us to actually pay someone to do that?
Right.
And we were successful. And in the first, you first have to start with being inquisitive, really to understand how are these things going to help your business? Can you create a business case to justify doing this internally and actually having these credentials to really try to help grow your business?
Do you think that there's a certain level that the business should be at before they need this? Or is it everyone?
I will tell you, I don't think the answer, I think the answer is no. I think you really need to start out developing, it may just be a straw man, right? And that's what security is. I mean, that's what, when you think about ISO 9000, these industry certifications, it is just a point in time where you are in your business journey. And it's a living document. It should grow as you grow. It should not be put on the shelf. As your business begins to grow, as it begins to expand, every year there should be an annual review of your documentation to see what has changed. That should just be fundamentally a business practice that you require of yourself as well as your employees, regardless of your size.
And that document, when we're first starting out, what does it look like?
Sure. So it varies, right? So if you're doing ISO 9000, you have a quality management plan. If you're doing like what we're talking about, CMMC or NIST, you're going to have a system security plan and maybe even ISMS, which is an information security management plan. And so it'll probably be when you're a new business, when you're talking about security, the majority of your processes are probably going to be done administratively. And that's why I said, there's a sense of empowerment, because when you get audited by someone externally, someone in your business has to understand. I understand in my business, I can thread that needle regardless of what we do, because I have read and in some instances crafted all those documents. So I understand what we do, how we do it, and what is the reasonable expectation of the outcome or the output. Someone in your organization has to do that too. And initially, it just starts off as one document, but know that document, breathe that document, and make it a standard practice to actually require people and hold them accountable for following those processes.
I like that. I think that's really helpful for a lot of us out here. Do you think that the cyber landscape is changing based on what's happening in Russia and Ukraine?
I'm a former cybersecurity person. I think it was always the same. We just didn't know it, or it wasn't really.
It wasn't put on front page news all day.
Correct.
Right. It wasn't a 24-hour news cycle.
Right. I think if you step back, because we started, our compliance journey back in 2016 or 2015.
Okay.
And all we were doing was, like most small businesses, they probably were using Office 365,
right,
using SharePoint. And then for a lot of small businesses, the owners probably were working on site or not. And so when you talk about a security plan, you can see how it would be very, very simple, because you don't really you're not working with any real data that could be considered sensitive. And if it is, more than likely it's probably not even uploaded to your SharePoint because you're not using it in that manner.
Right.
But as you begin to grow, now you can begin to see, okay, this is how I can essentially build out my documents so that it grows with me. And that's the key. You really have to make sure that you hold yourself or someone in your organization accountable. And then when you start to see things like Russia, and we get these different types of alerts from the federal government saying, you need to be operating at a system high, whatever that means for your organization, there should be a certain level of confidence minimally, right? Let's just say you don't even have the controls, but there should be some type of policy in place that says, if you receive email, or if an email looks like this, then do not open it, report it to this person. That is something that you should be able to ingrain in your employees and in your workforce day one. You haven't even implemented anything from a technology perspective.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of businesses don't even have that. If you start really demonstrating some cyber posture, because you're educating and informing the workforce on what they should be looking for.
No, I think that's great. I really do. I think that's great. Now, let's talk about yourself. What do you say are your three best traits?
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't have to be related to business. You could be a best chef. Maybe you're a good chef. Maybe you play the piano. Maybe you could play the violin.
Well, I'm a pretty prudent person, so I'm good at saving money.
Okay. No, that's okay. Okay.
I tell people, you'd be surprised at some of the things I do to make sure that my household is on a budget. And not necessarily because I have to, it's just the way I was raised, right?
Okay.
And so those things carry over to Steel Point. For a small company of our size, we've been able to navigate the different challenges with COVID because, they have a CEO who understands the importance of budgeting. So that's number one. I'm a planner. I really do. And more importantly, I don't plan for the sake of planning. I plan to execute, right? And so people would tell you, Likia will say, give her the bluff, bottom line up front. And then, let's go ahead and let's execute this, because I really want to see, if this is working, or if it isn't, what we need to do to course correct. So I think that those characteristics, has really boded well for me, as well as Steel Point.
That's two.
No, financials, planner, executor.
Oh, executor. Okay, all right, execution. All right, execution.
Yeah, you have a lot of people that they're visionary people, and they can come up with the vision,
but they can't execute. Yeah, they can't.
And they'll tell you, Likia, I don't know how we're going to do. I'm like, nope. There's a plan for it. And I'll tell them, not only do we have a plan, but we have a backup, A to Z. Here's the backup.
Okay. Hey, look, I look, those are actually, it's interesting because listening to you speak, and I try to tell my audience this, right? When I'm listening to you speak, if I was a contracting person on the side, that's music to my ears.
Okay.
Everything you're saying, right? And that's the way that we should try and articulate ourselves, right? So that someone says, look, I would love to give Steel Point a contract because I ain't got to worry about this girl. She's a planner down to the last detail. If this don't work out, she's going to have me covered of plan B, and that, I think that gives comfort, right? To federal sub agencies that want to, or considering who to make the award to, as opposed to people where they are waiting till the last minute and not submitting things properly, and not, they don't have a plan for if the system can't support like the file size, right? What's your backup plan? They never even consider that option, right? So,
and not even as a prime contractor, we had to put these things in place to be a good subcontractor. Right. And so as a subcontractor, you're really trying to find the most experienced person who can go in there and demonstrate to your prime that they can do the job. Well, what I used to tell our primes, and a lot of times the way that we got on contracts is post-contract award. So we weren't even a part of the team, but we would go in there and meet with their business development executives and say, listen, we have a plan. I sound like Elizabeth Warren.
That's all right. Go ahead.
We have a plan for that. And, I talked about our talent acquisition ecosystem and, all the different things that we put in place in order to help our people be successful in finding the right people so that when they actually go work on these contracts, the program stakeholders will come back and say, Steel Point, you guys are really providing us with some great people. And that's because of the things that we look for, the criteria, the process that we have in place to vet these people, all these things have been put in place just to become a good subcontractor. And so you mature that to say, okay, how do I take it to the next level to really become a good prime contractor? So your point is well made, and that's exactly what we do.
Well, no, I mean, I feel very confident. And I don't even do IT. I'm like, look, just give it to them. They'll get it done. We don't, whatever it is. Is there something that you don't do or you stay away from?
You know what?
Because again, you're 8A, you're a woman, right? And so I find that oftentimes the government will come to you and say, hey, we have this other project. Can you do this too? There's something that's like, nah, we don't really, you get me? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And you know what? We have been fortunate that we haven't had that happen, right? So one of the things that we do when we talk about IT, because that's such a broad term,
right?
Steel Point, we've never had, and this is not a disparaging comment, but we've never had, for example, a help desk opportunity or providing desktop support.
Okay.
It's really been focused on complex technologies like cross-domain solutions. How many know that understand, who even knows what a cross-domain guard is, let alone, can really talk to you about it from, cradle to grave. That's been the opportunities that have come our way. And so we've been very fortunate for that. So I haven't had a situation where someone has said, Steel Point, do you want to just do this? So I'm not in a position to say whether I will or I won't. At the end of the day, money is money, and if we can make it work, we try to make it work. But as we begin to grow and we really begin to really try to have that depth of experience in our capabilities, I really, want to the extent possible to hopefully position Steel Point to have more of those types of opportunities, because now we have built a name and we're recognized for that.
And now, again, I'm listening to this. I'm saying, okay, that's great. And that's wonderful. But when people tell me how difficult it is, how do you get presented with complex opportunities and not the simpler things, right? Because we already agree that the IT world is it's really competitive. So how do you skip over, because again, most small businesses, the frame of mind is I have to step up. So maybe I have to do a help desk contract to prove myself to get a complex contract. That's just the frame of thought that I hear from a lot of small businesses.
That's such a great question. When you start out in government contracting, you have a certain mindset, and typically you say, I'm going to start my business based on what my area of expertise is, right?
Right.
And so our journey has not been that way. Our journey has been, as I mentioned, trying to get on contracts post-award in the intelligence community. And so we would receive requirements like, we need someone with 20 years of experience who has operated and understands what SIGINT means. And oh, by the way, they understand what Ruby on Rails is. Steel Point, if you can get us that, you'll get this slide. He's like, hey, where's that person?
Right, yeah, right. Right. I guess 10, 20 of them right down the street.
Right. Yeah, and oh, by the way, they have to have a full scope poly. That's where really, again, where our processes came into place, but it also served to me as the launch point for us to get recognition and trust to do these more complicated, provide solutions to these more complicated requirements.
Okay.
And so, I'll think that, I'm just meeting with someone, year or two will pass, we've not heard from these people ever again, and then they will call us up and say, hey, do you guys know about this technology? And it just so happened because we are a true technical company, we do know about this technology,
Right.
and they'll say, we need for you to meet with this customer. And as they say, they're large businesses that come to us who bring us these opportunities. We have to go through several gates in order to demonstrate that we actually can do the work that we say we can do. And then they put us in front of the contracting officer. And boy, they're like, not only do you guys know how to deliver, but you also know how to work with these large companies. And those are things that, further adds to our credibility and allows us to continue to get opportunities providing support in these complex areas.
Wow. No, I mean, working with large businesses is another maze to challenge, right? That's another challenge point for small businesses. And I've heard, and I've never witnessed this, but I've heard in the IT space that a lot of the large organizations, like say Amazon or Google, are trying to poach your workers and your employees, things like that. Have you seen any of that happening?
Oh yeah, we're
Okay.
not, we actually feel that all the time. We see it not only here at Steel Point, but we also see it with other small businesses.
Okay.
We even see it with our government clients, right?
Wow.
And it's even further compounded because more people who have clearances, they want to work from home. How do you
Right.
navigate that challenge, right?
Yeah, no, it's true, right? You don't, it doesn't, right. Yeah.
Right. So, those are things that, we constantly have to look at our total compensation package. We have to look at our corporate culture. You have to look at the technologies that we're implementing. And, those are things that help feed our plan in terms of how we're actually going to recruit and keep the people that we have. And we have to look at that every single year.
What's your, I know you're a planner. So what's some
Mhm.
of your major plans for the next 2 years?
Oh, wow. So what we want to do is we want to take advantage of, going after and pursuing these GWAC contract vehicles
Okay.
because, so vehicles such as, CLSP 4, 8A Stars 3, which has been awarded. They just announced the second cohort.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, CLSP 4 is announced Paris. Now you have the Service Mac, which used to be called the Big Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And then, try to figure out how we can also win some single award contracts. And
Okay.
so that's our focus, is really to, go after and pursue and hopefully be successful in being awarded these contract vehicles where it gives us, Steel Point, an opportunity to pursue requirements that align with our capability as a prime contractor. That's our focus. Our focus is also to make sure that, we continue to hire and retain the right people. Talent acquisition is so, so important to me. We have a great team. I'm looking to build on my team, but also I'm looking to, how can I continue to create a dynamic culture that cultivates, intellectual and independent thought, but also how we can work together. One of the things that I talk about a lot this year is shared success. So if we're successful as an organization, I can assure you, you're going to be successful as an individual. It all works together. So those are the two main things that we're working on.
Any acquisitions in mind in place? Anything you're thinking about?
It would be nice to be able to acquire a business. But, what I am thinking about, so the short answer is no.
Okay.
But what I am thinking about is, strategic teaming. So if anybody looks me up on LinkedIn, I
Okay.
always talk about strategic teaming. And
Okay.
that is so critical. What does that mean? Well, for Steel Point, it means a very specific thing for us. And so I'm very intentional on who now we're partnering with.
Well, you're going to be in front of an audience of government contractors. So go ahead and tell people, if you like, what you're looking for, the type of partners. I mean, you mentioned some GWACs. So you're looking for partners that are on those current vehicles. I know this 3 is out. We've had probably 12 of my podcast guests that are on Stars 3. Are you looking for any type of, what type of strategic partners are you looking for? Maybe they're listening.
Sure. Thank you for that. So what we're looking for is, we have criteria for large businesses, criteria for mid-sized businesses, and criteria for small businesses.
Okay.
And the one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to necessarily partner with a company where our core capabilities overlap. Because if our core capabilities overlap, then now we could potentially be creating an unnecessary competitive environment. And what we really want to do is create an environment where your company thrives, Still Point thrives, and we can communicate this at other agencies where you may have relationships and agencies where Still Point have relationships. That way, number one, we have identified a core set of requirements that we want to pursue. We have a targeted agency that we actually want to compete for work, so we're not all over the place. And what we do is we put in place, in some instances, an MOU. In other instances, we talk about teaming. And then in some instances, we look at a joint venture agreement. So what may that look like? And so these are things that, the criteria that we look at, that we present to potential teaming partners, strategic teaming partners, regardless of your business size. And so we know that if we do this and we do it successfully, the reason why this is also important is because it actually helps to put some skin in the game for the teaming partner. So one partner isn't necessarily feeling like they're carrying the bulk of the workload. So those are some of the high level requirements that we look for in terms of, strategic teaming and partnership.
Okay, but nothing specific, like no specific GWACs that you're looking for, no specific types of entities that you're looking for. For example, an entity that does RMF, let's say, maybe you're looking for someone that does RMF, because that's a capability that you don't have and that you'd like a partner that has that capability.
So I'll give you an example. So we do digital transformation. That's a core capability of ours. We have prime contract, past performance, excellent CPARs, and it can be applied across a number of agencies, regardless of the actual mission. But now what we're looking for is how can we complement our digital transformation solution with functional subject matter experts, for example, healthcare IT, right? So we would want to partner with a company that they are not necessarily a technologies company, but they are certainly a healthcare IT company or healthcare services company, and they want to figure out, how can we potentially partner together to pursue healthcare IT work. So Still Point, we're a cyber company, but we focus on audit and compliance. So what does that really mean? So for us, what we're looking for is not necessarily to do ISO work. That may be work that another company we would probably be looking to partner with, but we're really looking to do is like, how can we leverage, for example, our cybersecurity offering to help the government assess their own posture as it relates to more broader requirements within those agencies. For example, the supply chain risk management. We have solutions, assess and authorization, where we're looking at broader, what would the government need to do to demonstrate compliance, for example, with FSMA or something along those lines.
Okay. All right. I'm going to change the subject.
Mm-hmm.
While I love it, I sometimes have to get out of my own skin. So that's good. But I also want to give you a chance to share, because there are so many IT companies and potential partners that are listening to this, and I want to give you the opportunity to say what is it you're looking for. Tell me a most recent purchase that you made on Amazon that made you happy.
Oh my goodness. You know what? They have some Perrier water. It's not water, it's infused with fruit.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And that made me happy for some reason. I think I overpaid for it, but it was still good.
Of course, the prudent one is going to say I overpaid for Perrier water. How much did you think you overpaid for the water?
Well, once they added the taxes, it was $18 for a case, and then they added the taxes, and it came up to like $32. So yeah, that's overpaying.
Yeah, you probably overpaid for that water. But it was good, right? It was good water.
It was. I enjoyed it all.
Okay.
I think it lasted a week. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Well, and we all need more water.
Indeed, we do. So you got to get it the way that works for you, right?
Right. Yes. And I'm the same way because I have a hard time drinking water. So fruit infused water,
Yeah.
I enjoy. So I appreciate that. Uh, are you an early riser or are you late night in terms of working?
Um, I used
You
to be
stay
a
till 2 or
workaholic.
you wake up
Yeah,
at 5?
no, well, no, I wake up at about 4 o'clock every morning,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm definitely an early riser. So yeah, and what I've had to do is stop myself from emailing people. So,
Because you
so
email at 4 a.m.
you know what? I've been doing a pretty good job. I noticed like a week or two, I've been emailing. I said, "Oh my God, I got to stop that." And so, because that, it's not that important. It can wait until core business hours. And so,
Okay.
I do think that for me though, I like to get my day started. I have a whole routine. And then, like I said, I'm a planner, boom, boom, boom. Let's go ahead and get it started. Because I'm also a mom too. I have 3 boys, well,
Mm.
one man, young man, and a
What
teenage,
age? What ages?
20, 23,
Uh,
16, and 10, all
okay.
boys.
Oh,
So
wow.
I have to, turn into a pumpkin and do that mom thing. And I like to do that at a pretty decent hour every day.
Okay. All right. And so you said you have a routine. So what's your routine? You wake up at 4.
Yeah, I wake up at 4, I just meditate, exercise, and then just get the day started, get the boys up and moving around, read through some emails. I like to read like at least 2 or 3 articles every morning.
Okay.
Just to kind of like, for example, Washington Technology, I'm a
Yep.
subscriber. I like reading that. I
Yep.
like to see what's going on in terms of, what the latest amendments or the bills that Congress has passed. So I try to get 3 business related articles in every single day, every day.
Wow, that keeps you ahead of everyone, I would imagine.
I'm trying to, although all these things matter as a small business operating and providing support to the government. They really do. They all matter. Your delivery matters, but also looking at it from a policy, economic insight. I don't know, as a business owner, it's not good enough for me to have a CFO. I want to understand, what these financial metrics mean. What does my cash ratio mean? What does my liquidity ratio mean? These things all matter to me and help me make more informed decisions about Steel Point.
Wow. Wow. Any books that you recommend?
I am reading right now a couple of books. I'm very good at starting books and taking a long time to finish. I'm reading this book on mindfulness.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Can't remember the author's name, but I am reading it. I'm also reading another book on, how to think differently. So, sometimes you may have a certain perspective or way that you think something should be handled, and how important is it to have an open mind and listen to what others have to help influence and hopefully make a good decision.
I had one of my guests that came on and she said that her employees knew there were certain hours when they could give her bad news versus good news. Do you
Mhm.
have anything like that you operate by? Like, or I heard you wrote down bluff, right? So, but is there, I might have known that. But do you have anything like that? Any nuances where, hey, look, first thing in the morning, you can hit me with all the tough stuff, but, in the afternoon, we're getting ready to close up, you want to go home and you want to change your mind state. Anything?
No, I mean, I'm the type of person where I want to hear the bad news, right?
Uh-huh.
Actually, I want to hear whatever you think is bad before it becomes really an issue.
Mm,
And so I welcome that. And I don't care if you tell me in the morning, the noon, or the night. I want to know. The one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is when I have to hear it through a different source.
mm.
Then it makes me, I'm like, okay, I'm not blowing now, so but I don't have a preference.
Okay. So you just
Yeah.
tell it to me before it hits out and makes a bigger problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want people, hey, see, here's the deal. You gotta create an environment where people feel comfortable with telling you good and bad news.
Right.
Bad
Right.
things are gonna happen.
No. And that is such an entrepreneurial quality, such an entrepreneurial trait.
Mhm.
And that's what we want to hear. If you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, great. I would be teaching. Can't you tell?
But teaching. Yeah, no,
I would be a college professor teaching business, entrepreneurship. Oh man, yeah, that's what
yeah, I would like to have you as my teacher.
yeah. I'm bringing it. I'm bringing the real. They
No,
would
we
love
need that.
that.
Yeah, we need that. No, we need that. I feel like I didn't identify a lot of my college professors. So
Yeah. And actually, my employees, they tell me, the way that you do things is so like it's like you're teaching a little bit. And I try to shy away from that because I don't want to seem professorial and people feel like they can't talk to me or I'm micromanaging. So that's another thing that I'm learning to do less of, which is more coaching and mentoring as opposed to here's exactly how you do it.
I see that you were part of Ernst & Young Entrepreneur Access Network. Are you part of any other organizations like that?
I am. I'm part of the WPO. I just submitted an application for WCAPS. I am also a part of INSA.
I don't know, WCAPS.
You know what? I got to get the names of the acronym because I just joined, but I know it has to do with security. I think it's women of color, and I don't want to screw up their name because they would probably hate me for it.
Women of color advancing peace, security, and
Yes,
conflict.
and I was thank you so much. So impressed with the recent event that they had. I had never heard of the organization before. Someone, said, Likia, maybe, you have something to add to this conversation. And, I just want to learn more about it and how I can possibly help. So, and that's another thing as an entrepreneur, I'm learning to get more out of the office and doing more networking. It presents an opportunity for me to learn from other women, other professionals, see how things are possibly done differently as opposed to, being in the office knee deep in the minutia. I go out there and make sure that I'm helping champion Steel Point to meet our goals.
No, I think that's super important. Every time I go to a conference and event, right, I meet some incredible people. And like you said, they get to know about your business, your organization, and you get to know a little bit about themselves. And I've always found partners, alliances, right? Future companions always when I'm at these events.
True story. I was going to Georgia, felt like every month. I went up to introduce myself to some of the government personnel. This gentleman came up to me, introduced himself to me. We exchanged business cards. I had been going down there for, it felt like 6 to 8 months. Every single industry day, any opportunity I had to learn, what their requirements were, what are they focused on, really to begin to really kind of ingratiate myself in their environment. I got a phone call from someone who knew the gentleman, met him one time, said, we're going out to this opportunity and we want you to prime it. It just so happened to be an opportunity that was in our core capabilities.
Right.
And the proposal was due in 2 weeks. We turned the proposal around and we won it. Just, you have to get out there. You have to network. It's so important.
Wow. No, that's a great story. That's a great story. That's a good story. Something in business that when you start off, you did not like, and you just still dislike. I used to use the word hate, but I thought hate was very strong. So I say dislike.
I am a person, I think, of high integrity, and I like doing business with people I trust. And I used to say, I will not do business with people I cannot trust. I think that was naive thinking. I have to be open to doing business with all people, regardless of whether or not I trust them or not. I just have to put things in place to protect Steel Point's interests. And so that was something that, I really, the first, I would say 5, and we've only been in business for 8. So I'm still learning this, is how do you do business with people that you don't necessarily trust, who've proven to you this is why you shouldn't trust them, but in order to continue to grow your business, in order to continue to help accomplish your goals and objectives, how can you still work with those types of people and still accomplish your goals and objectives? And that's something that's really been a challenge for me.
Wow. I'm going to, that should be the opening statement. That is so powerful. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy I asked you that question. That is so powerful. Why don't you close us out with some parting words for small businesses, entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs?
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation. Still Point, we're a mature small business doing phenomenal things, providing information technology and business solutions to both the public and private sector. The one thing I will leave in terms of parting words is just be informed and be educated so that you're in a position to make the right decisions for your company. That's the most powerful thing that I can provide by way of any words or advice to up and coming entrepreneurs, especially those doing business in the public sector.
Wow, thank you for that. And as always, the show notes from today's episode will be on our website, govcongiants.com/podcast. Thank you, Likia, for coming on today. Thank you for the conversation. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Looking forward to sending us, if you can, I would love to see a picture with you and your 3 boys. And that's the one that I want to put up on the show. So that
Oh, wonderful. I definitely would do that. Thank you so much.
I think that'd be great. So as we spent the whole time talking about your business, we'll show the lighter side of things and let them know that you're a human, you're a person, you got a family, and you're a regular person, you're a regular woman that's running a business out here trying to make it like everyone else. So,
That
sounds good?
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.